There is no cheat code to an AP test. If you clicked on this video thinking that you were going to get the cheat code to how to ace your APs and not do any work throughout the year, that's just not what this is. Hi guys, my name is Makayla if you didn't know, and I am an incoming college freshman. I just graduated from high school after graduating a year early, so I finished high school in 3 years, and AP scores just came out. If you, like many other high schoolers at this time, just got your AP scores, you are either really happy with your scores, really disappointed with your scores, or somewhere in the middle like most people. And if you've taken multiple, you're probably somewhere in that middle group of really happy about some, probably surprised about others, and not so happy about other ones. I feel like after you take your first few AP tests, you sort of get a feel for how they work and how to navigate them for the next school year. However, for people taking their very first AP class, or for some people that are taking a range of different AP classes, so you're taking a social science or a language or a math or a science, it's kind of hard to get into a flow. Sorry, my camera's tilting because it's too heavy for my ring light, so just if you see it falling, ignore it. Anyway, I know we've all seen those videos of the people who've taken like 30 million AP classes, like every single one that's offered, they've taken it. I personally don't understand how they've done that, but also I graduated in 3 years, so I've only had the opportunity to take 7 AP classes. So I've taken those 7 AP tests, and out of those 7, I've gotten credit for 6. But I have taken a range of AP classes. I took AP US History, AP US Government and Politics, AP Physics 1, AP Biology, AP Statistics, AP Economics. I only took the test for macro though, and AP Lang. So out of those 7, the only one that I didn't get credit for is AP Physics 1, and I took that while I was a sophomore in high school. I feel like that was the one that taught me the most about how to do well on AP tests. Like, I feel like you sort of need to not pass one to understand what makes you pass and what makes you not. Because I could have told you that I wasn't going to pass that physics test halfway through the school year. If you're wondering, on APUSH, I got a 4, AP Gov, I got a 5, AP Physics, I got a 2, which is surprising. I thought I was going to get a 1. AP Statistics, I got a 4. AP Biology, I got a 4. AP Macroeconomics, I got a 5. And AP Lang, I also got a 5. I'm not going to go through each individual class and tell you what I did to study and how I did this and what I studied, because I honestly don't think that's helpful. I think that once you understand the class and the course and how the test is going to be structured, you can really apply that to whatever AP test is within that category. So for me, I understood how the social sciences worked because I took APUSH and AP Gov, and therefore was able to do well on macroeconomics. Whereas for physics, I already saw the structure of the physics exam. So even though I didn't pass physics, I knew how to pass bio, because I applied that, what I didn't understand and what I didn't get right with physics, I was able to apply that to AP Biology. The other thing is that I don't think that it's helpful to take every single AP class. You see people who take every AP. One, you can only transfer so many credits. My school, I think, I'm going to Florida State, they only accept, I want to say, like 40 credits coming in, and even that might be more than what they take. At a certain point, they're not going to take all of your credits, and it only works for the intro level classes. So even though you can take like AP Lang and AP Lit, it's only going to work for that intro level English class. So it's only going to do so much. And that's why some people say to do dual enrollment instead of AP. Personally, there wasn't a good dual enrollment program at my school. We have a lot of AP classes, but we don't have a good like dual enrollment program. It's really not talked about at all. I took one class at a college campus my first semester of last year, which is like my junior/senior year, and it honestly was so hard. Like, in addition to all of my AP classes and being in extracurriculars and everything, it was really difficult to be doing that because one, it wasn't dual enrollment. I was taking it on top of my other classes. Like, I was dual enrolled in both schools, but it wasn't like it's built into my schedule in place of a high school class. I was taking 6 classes at my high school plus that college class. And it was an accelerated online Spanish class. So I was literally spending multiple hours a day trying to get in the work because it was an 8-week course that was like a semester condensed down to 8 weeks. So it was really fast. Like we had like 60 assignments due a week, plus a discussion board and a test every Sunday. So that class for me, I personally just would not do again because it was really hard to keep up with for those 8 weeks. And it was good because it gave me 4 credits, but I also felt like I was sort of coasting through my AP classes all year, and I ended up getting 16 credits from that. I don't know that I would take everybody's advice of just do dual enrollment, because the other thing is that class was like $800. My AP classes were like $100 per test. So for some people it's like, yeah, you're spending $100 and you may not even get the credit, versus $800 and you may not pass the class because it's difficult. I personally would just say take the classes that you think you're going to do well in, which sounds obvious, but I feel like it's really not, because a lot of times people just take whatever is available to them. Like my freshman year, everybody took AP Human Geography. I didn't take it. I'm horrible with geography. I would not do well in it. I ended up just taking classes, like instead of taking that class that I wasn't required to take, I wasn't going to do well in, I took other classes that allowed me to graduate a year early. Side note, if you want to know how I did that, I can do a whole separate video on that, and I probably will. Just let me know if you want to see that. Take classes that you think you're actually going to do well in. I am not a huge science person outside of biology. When it came to this year and I was like, okay, I can take a 4th year of science. I already took AP Physics. We're not doing that again. Technically, I could take Physics too, but that sounds horrible. I could take AP Chem. I could take AP Bio. I could take AP Environmental Science. Let me take AP Bio because I really enjoyed biology. Like since I was younger, I enjoyed biology, which is why I took it. Take the APs you think you'll do well in. I'm good with math and I'm good with social sciences, so I figured I'd do well in econ. I'm good with numbers, but I don't really like calculus, so I'm not going to take AP Calc, even though I took pre-calc. I'm not going to take AP Calc, I'll take AP Stats. Take the classes that work for you, because I don't think personally that an admissions officer is going to look at a transcript and be like, ooh, they didn't take AP Human Geo though. They may have swapped it out with like AP Environmental Science, but they didn't take AP Human Geo. Ooh. Gotta go. The other thing, you really need to plan ahead. Like genuinely plan ahead. And this has nothing to do with acing your APs. I'm just a little word of advice. Plan ahead, because I promise you, you're gonna be pissed when you have what adds up to like 35 credits in AP classes, and then you go to school and register for your classes, and they're like, well, you only have 2 social science requirements, you have 7 social science classes, which ones are we gonna transfer? They're only going to match it to the class. You're not just gonna have those credits just floating out, not attached to any class. So it's great that you have it, but can you use it? If you're planning to go to college, which I assume you are, is to look at whatever school you want to go to, multiple schools you want to go to, and see what their graduation requirements are, and then your school's graduation requirements. Most schools, it's 3 social science, 3 math, 3 or 4 reading classes, all of those, right? So within those, what AP can knock out my social science? I have both of my social science credits knocked out with APUSH and Gov. Before I even started my senior year, I had my social science requirements for college knocked out with those credits. So really, I didn't need an AP social science this year that would do anything for me. But Florida State has you can either be like a foreign language, or you can do like a computer language, which would be a stats class and 2 econ classes. I already have my stats class. I was taking econ, so it ended up working for that. If I didn't have that option, I literally would have been taking AP Econ for no reason, because those credits wouldn't be able to transfer or give me anything. Just a little side note, please plan out where your credits are going to go so that you're not just taking them just to take them. Yes, it's a good grade boost, but also don't waste your time trying to plan for studying for a bunch of APs and you don't even need to do it. This is going to sound dumb and cliche. The biggest indicator of how well you're going to do on that AP test is your grades throughout the year. I know. Now here's the caveat. Here's the thing. Only you will know if you're going to do well on that test. Because AP Physics, I had an A all year, and I knew I wasn't passing. And that's because I knew deep down that I didn't understand the material, and you need to actually understand the material to do well. Whereas AP Gov and AP US History, I was getting the same grades as I was getting in physics, and I understood the material. And so by the end of first semester, I knew that I was going to be getting credit on those AP exams. I feel like first semester is a really, really, really good indicator of how you're going to do on the AP test, unless you just like completely check out and don't try. But A-Push, I genuinely stopped paying attention in class for all of second semester, and I still got a 4. AP Gov, same thing, still got a 5. Now, that's not to say that you don't need to study. I'm saying if you put the work in throughout the year, you don't need to worry about cramming at the end. I have never been a big studier, but I think that's because I understand the material as the time goes on, and I do the work in the class, you know? There is no cheat code to an AP test. If you clicked on this video thinking that you were gonna get the cheat code to how to ace your APs and not do any work throughout the year, that's just not what this is. You absolutely have to put the work in throughout the year. I know it looks much different. It is hours later. I had to charge my camera. So sorry. As I was saying, there is no way to game an AP test. If you don't understand the material, you're not going to pass the test. I feel like it gets tricky for some people because AP classes, at least the ones that I've been in and like in my school in general, the AP classes have a much lighter workload in my experience than a lot of honors classes. And I think the issue is that people get into these AP classes knowing that the workload is going to be easier and expecting to just coast through the class. But just because the workload is lighter doesn't mean that it's easy. And I think that people get into this mindset of like, wow, they're giving me less work so I can do less and put in less to the class and just coast by with my A. It's very much so structured like a college class. And I think I succeeded in my AP classes because somebody told me that AP classes are structured like college classes. So they're not going to give you as much homework. They're not going to test you as much. You're not going to have as many projects or chances to get your grade up in class. But you do still need to put in the work and show up and actually try to learn the material to do well. And I think it shows more on the AP test than it does on like your grade in the class. My point is, you need to treat it like a college class because that's how they're structured. They don't give you a lot of work up front, but they give you opportunities to learn the material. It's just up to you on whether or not you're going to partake. And whether or not you partake is the deciding factor of how you're going to do on the AP exam. My friends that didn't pass the A-Push exam or the AP Gov exam were the same people that weren't doing the assignments, weren't doing the readings, were waiting until the last minute to do everything because they weren't trying to learn the material. They were just trying to get a good grade. That is my advice for the majority of the year. I wouldn't really think about the AP test honestly until like a month before, and I know somebody's probably gonna like disagree with me on that, but I am not a huge studier. I feel like I have that like gifted kid syndrome where you never really had to study for things when you were younger and now you don't know how to study. I'm learning how to study. I think I've gotten better at studying, but I never really had to study, so I don't have great proven time and time again study methods. Again, my method is just kind of be if I understand it in the class, I'm gonna be able to do well on the test on it. I know that's not how everybody works. So as far as review, the things that have worked for me, because you are recalling a whole year's worth of information on a singular test, is going to review sessions and taking practice tests. Last year, I did not realize how much I didn't remember from AP Gov until I went to the review sessions. I went to every single review session they had after that very first one that I went to, because I went to the first one, we were doing a review game, and I didn't remember the answer to any of the questions. I went to a couple more, I was a pro at it. And it's easier because I already learned the information. I already knew it, I just needed to remind myself of it, so the reviewing wasn't as like taxing as I thought it would be. Side note, don't buy the review books. I have not used a single review book. I bought 3 of them last year, didn't use them. I say the review sessions are very helpful. If your teachers are like thinking about holding any, go to them. There are some classes where I didn't go to the review sessions and then we just reviewed it in class. Any sort of review with your teacher is going to help. What I think helped for me the most, because I went to maybe 1 review session this year, I think what helped me more than any sort of review session was practice tests. And I'm not saying a practice test every night and practice tests on everything, and even on a unit that you like completely understand, taking a practice test on it, you're wasting your time. You need to be smart, especially when you're taking a lot of AP tests. What works for me, take 1 practice test that's similar to the AP test, and then see where you struggled specifically and what material you don't remember specifically, and review that. I think when you take a practice test, it helps you focus more because a class is so broad that it's like, well, I don't specifically remember how these two molecules interact and what kind of bond that is, but it's more so important of, do you need to know that? And that's going to lead into a point I have later, but I think the key is when you review is centralizing what you actually need to know. So what I think really helped for me was in my AP biology class, we took one really long practice test that was over the course of like 4 days, but it was a full AP test. Like, it was from a couple of years ago. It was the full multiple choice, and it was all of the free responses. And then from there, she graded it, gave us whatever grade we would have gotten on the AP test had that been the real thing. And then we got to see, okay, these questions are from this unit and these questions are from this unit. And then from there, I was like, okay, so I'm sort of struggling with unit 1 and unit 4. So instead of reviewing 1 through 7, I'm just going to review 1 and 4 because I know enough from the other ones to get a good score. And that sort of leads into my next point, that on an AP test, very rarely do you need to know everything from the course, but you need to focus on what's important. And that's where, again, I think the practice tests come in handy, because that's when you start to be like, okay, well, they're not going to ask me super detailed stuff about this. They just want to make sure I understand how it works, or the process, or the concept of it. Know the structure of the course. And as you start to take practice tests and things, that's when you start to learn the structure of the course. Like in biology, I realized that I didn't really need to study for it as long as I understood the material or review or anything, because it's not a recall type of course. It's a conceptual course. If you understand how this system works, you don't need to really know the specifics. Any sort of math class is going to be like that. I feel like a science class is going to be like that because they're going to ask you more application, whereas classes like AP Gov and like macroeconomics very much felt like recall classes. Like, if you don't understand the details of this case, I don't really know what to tell you. Those are very specific, detail-oriented classes, which is why I feel like going to a review session for Gov was very helpful, and reviewing specific information for macro was very helpful, because you need to know that information in order to answer the test right. So that's why I say it's very important to pay attention to like the tests that you go through in the class, because a lot of times teachers will style their tests after the AP test, or they'll give you AP questions. So I think it's very important to see, like, are they asking me to recall specific information, or are they asking me for something that I didn't really need to study or I wasn't going to get out of text and is more conceptual. And finally, I think it's very important that you're confident in your answers. A lot of times AP readers, they're not going to be lenient, and they're not going to try to figure out what you mean. So you need to, whatever you're saying, even if you think it's wrong, answer it fully, and be confident in your answer. On the last question of the macroeconomics exam, I had no idea what graph I was drawing, but I finished the question. I drew it, I labeled it right, and even if it was completely wrong, at least I was going to get points for labeling it. Everything else could have been wrong about that question, but that's 2 points right there. So I guess that's a little bonus tip of like literally answer everything. Now I will say, the exception to this, there are 2 different like categories, because I've heard very different things. In a science class, they are looking for 1 to 2 answer responses. They're not looking for wiggle room. They're not looking for you to counteract what you were saying before and try and get the right answer 5 sentences later, just in case the first sentence isn't right. If you think it is this thing, and you're 50% sure, 60% sure, write it down and move on. Because the more that you try to explain it, the more that you're going to go back on what you said, and they're not going to give you the point. So they don't know what you think, and they're not going to try to figure out what you think. And then on the other hand, for social sciences, I was told by my AP Gov teacher, write as much as you have time for. If they're asking you about the Articles of Confederation, write everything you know about the Articles of Confederation. Because if the first thing you write that you think is enough isn't the right answer, maybe it'll be 5 sentences down. And even if they sort of disagree with each other, if the right answer is in there somewhere, they're going to give you the point. Whatever you're answering, go with your gut. If you take anything out of this video, practice tests are your best friend. Don't dwell on stuff that you don't have time to dwell on. You cannot get every question right. And there's some stuff where I'm like, if I thought about it longer, I know I can find the answer. You'll have so much more time to think at the end of the test. go answer everything else. I hope any of that was helpful. If it was, feel free to leave a comment down below. I know you're probably not ready to think about AP classes considering it is still the summer, but considering that AP scores just came out, I figured I would make this now while it's fresh on your brain. And feel free to save this and come back to it in like early April. I want to make a lot more college and academic content, so if you're interested, make sure that you like and subscribe and turn on some notifications so that you get notified the next time that I upload. If you have any suggestions on videos or things that you'd like for me to share, I'll do my best. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Love you. Bye.